There are some DEI supporting and probably DEI hire and DEI retained employees of ours that we need to ask President Trump to fire. We'll talk about this with the help of KnowYourRiskRadio.com. That's Zach Abraham's great radio show, KnowYourRiskRadio.com, and with the great permission of God Almighty, who is the ultimate judge of equity and inclusion. Right? Thank you, Lord.
The Todd Herman Show is 100% disapproved by big pharma, technocrats, and tyrants everywhere. Now, from the high mountains of free America, here's the Emerald City exile, Todd Herman.
Today is the day the Lord has made, and these are the times to which God has decided we shall live. In pursuit of watching President Trump's first week in office and the shock and awe it's installed in people who are leftists and in people who are genuinely afraid and terrified of President Trump and genuinely can't stand him, there are people who see in him, and we don't have to agree, but I'm telling you, there are people who see in him the face of every. They see in him the face of every male abuser. And part of this has to do with people's personal trauma, and we can argue against that all we want. And their trauma is real. So as loving family members or friends, we need to understand their trauma is real. And sometimes President Trump is his own worst enemy. This past week, I have trouble rating this as anything other but a solid B+. And it's not an A because of what he's doing with Larry Ellison, which we talk about in today's Substack post in some detail, including a new piece of research that you need to understand if you have young kids. Very important, particularly if you have a baby that's about to be born. So with the exception of Larry Ellison and that whole thing with AI and medicine, I rate this as a solid B+. It would be an A, absent that an A+. But one of the great A+ moments, and there's a couple of them, and it goes to this discussion of DEI military leaders that are going to have to be fired or court-martialed. They're going to have to face consequences. We'll get to that. There was the moment we'll talk about later this week, or maybe today, I can't recall, that President Trump turned his microphone and cameras over to storm victims in Western North Carolina. Have you seen this? 20 minutes. The president gave a national stage to these people in 20 minutes. There are now, finally, the Army Corps of Engineers is down there cleaning out highways that take people to grocery stores that have been blocked since the storm. Not a finger had been lifted. Suddenly, the resources are there. That's a major, major reason people are going to continue to vote for President Trump and to support him. And the DEIing, of course, that FEMA was doing, well, it's not equitable. We need to make sure that that storm recovery dollars and disaster recovery are parted out by race. And there's a lot of white folk down there. And that was an expressed principle of FEMA. Then we know, of course, well, don't go into Trump supporting yards. Don't go try to help them. It was in writing. That's DEI, the way it's practiced by the left. So the moment that President Trump did that was fantastic. There's one other moment, though, where President Trump confronted in a setting, a roundtable setting, a woman who is only mayor of Los Angeles because of emotional DEI. Meaning, well, she's black and she's woman, and we couldn't have a whitish man like Rick Caruso be mayor of Los Angeles. We need a black leftist Marxist woman. And this is New York style, hardcore, get stuff done, move things out of the way, help people approach to retail politics versus a woman who has been inoculated to common sense because she's never faced any accountability for not having any. In fact, part of her job is to not have common sense. Part of her DEIing is to steal money from the fire departments and give it to multicolored intersections and to strongly worded statements against Trump and against Putin. I'll share this moment with you in a second because I find it extraordinary, and it is a DEI moment. And as I share this, I'm aware of a pretty brutal irony. I'm about to talk about one of our partners who, for some reason, is still in California. Look, it's their life. I wish John and the team would move up here. It's about Allen Soaps. So we're at, January, what's the date today, Alex? January 27th? January 27th. And I'm asking you to think about how long you've listened to this program or watched this program and any reason you have not tried Allen Soaps. And I'm asking you if you can come up with, boom, a reason, a solid reason, or maybe excuse why you've not tried it, then granted. Fast forward through the ad. If there's not an excuse, why have you not tried a soap that's all natural, that is made in the United States of America, that's made and handcrafted by a family with 3 generations of soap making expertise, with fragrances you can't get anywhere else, that employs young people that the people on the left would have rather seen aborted? They'd still would like to see John and his wife take Alan and put him in an institution, and his brother Ian and put him in an institution. They don't want this company to exist. So why have you not tried it? If that's calling to you, then make this the moment you actually do it. Pause the cast. Go to allensoaps.com/Todd. You get 10% off all the products there. My suggestion is just subscribe, because it's been my experience. Once people try Allen Soaps, that's what they end up doing. Subscribe. allensoaps.com/Todd. Incidentally, yesterday was Ian's birthday. And there's Ian's Blend. That's Alan's young brother. Happy birthday, Ian. Happy birthday to you. And there's Ian's Blend. That's a liquid soap. If you've been taking Allen Soaps, then do Ian a solid and pick up some Ian's Blend liquid soap. So this is President Trump, and he's at a round table in California. He flew in there, and there's this great footage of Gavin Newsom waiting around on the tarmac for 10 minutes. I don't know if President Trump was pulling a power play. He's the president of the United States. He might have been busy on a phone call. And he jumped off, and Gavin Newsom greeted literal Orange Hitler by saying, "It's really good to have you here. This means a lot to us. Thank you so much for coming out." Literal Orange Hitler. That's an interesting greeting for literal Orange Hitler. The Democrats know how much evil they've made of a man who's pretty much, in many ways, just retail politics. Here is part of this roundtable between Karen Bass and President Trump. And tell me if you spot DEI versus pragmatism.
So I signed executive directives right away so that we could cut the red tape. We could get people back building as fast as possible. And we're going to continue doing that.
Yeah, the one thing is they are saying they will not be allowed to start for 18 months.
No, that will not be the case.
Okay, I just hope you're right.
You can hold me to it.
Because 4 groups said that.
No.
That would be, they should be able to do it. They should be able to start tonight.
That will not be the case. First we have to take care to make sure that there's not getting rid of the hazardous waste, cleaning things up so that people can start right away. And just like you said, if somebody their house was destroyed and they're going to rebuild essentially the same, maybe a little bit longer, a little bit higher, they really shouldn't have to go through much of a process. So I want you to know that we are expediting that. We absolutely need your help. We need the federal help. You're a builder.
You got it. I told you. You will have no permit problem. There will be 0 delay. And as far as I'm concerned, you already have the permits.
And the resource.
I am more worried because I met at least 8 groups of homeowners, and I'm much more worried about the fact that they said it's 18 months exactly. And they were devastated. They want to start now. They want to start removing things. They're not allowed to do it now. And you mentioned hazardous waste. Well, the hazardous waste, what's hazardous waste? I mean, you're going to have to define that. We're going to go through a whole series of questions on determining what's hazardous.
Nope.
I just think you have to allow the people to go on their site and start the process tonight.
And we will.
Okay.
And
you can
they weren't.
Check.
Mr. President?
And they weren't. And President Trump turned to the audience and he pointed people out. You said 18 months. You said 18 months. And President Trump described scenes he was told about. People standing in front of their lots, wanting to go clean up so they can begin the process of finding their items. And President Trump spoke to this. Some people want to go see if there's anything of emotional value that survived the fires. They want to go see if there's a family album. Maybe they've got a safe with things in it. They want it, but there are administrators and bureaucrats blocking them. You can't go onto your own property. That can't be. President Trump is also applying some standards to money. And this has blown the heads apart of people who cannot believe that a president is attaching requirements to federal dollars. This has been phenomenal to watch on social media. President Trump's blackmailing California to allow him to let water come down from the north so the reservoirs can be full again, despite the fact that they chose not to fill them with 2 years of record rain. And voter ID. These are some of the things that President Trump wants to require. And I'm watching leftists say he's blackmailing people. No, he's doing in public what's normally done on paper by bureaucrats. There's always a catch to federal dollars, always. That's how they've seized control of local schools and small business. Federal dollars involved. So I love this approach. And Karen Bass saying she's waived these things, that does not stand to the test of reality of families saying, but they're not waived. Karen Bass is not meant to be a mayor. She's meant to be an agitator. And that's a local basis. On a national basis, there's an organization called the Defense Health Agency. Have you ever heard of this? The Defense Health Agency? It's a joint integrated, this is their website. The Defense Health Agency is a joint integrated combat support agency that enables the U.S. Army, U.S. Navy, and U.S. Air Force medical services to provide a medically ready force and ready medical force to combatant commanders in both peacetime and wartime. The DHA is in charge of integrating clinical and business operations across the MSH and facilitates the delivery of integrated and reasonably priced healthcare to MHS clients. DHS's global workforce of almost 140,000 civilians and military personnel provide services to TRICARE beneficiaries and their dependents. I've talked to some people who say TRICARE is pretty decent. I did some work with TRICARE back in the day, and there were some people who thought it was pretty decent. Listen, though, to this. A woman with a bunch of medals on her chest and has, in my judgment and experience, never won a war, but she gets to put a bunch of medals on her chest. Now, all military service deserves our assumption of honor because joining the military can be honorable. I used to say is always honorable. But we live in a time where some people join the military for less than honorable reasons. We have to admit this. The woman on the screen, if you're watching the video service, her name is General Talida Crossland. And she recently sent a memorandum. And it was how to continue to provide wrong sex surgeries and wrong sex hormones to people in the military, service members, despite the fact that this is no longer allowed. She should be court-martialed. If you're going to put the medals on your chest like someone who won a war, or looking at her chest, multiple wars, and you refuse to respect the ultimate chain of command, which is, in our Republican form of democracy, the President of the United States, and you are openly saying, here's how to refuse to follow orders, you should be brought before a military tribunal, you should be court-martialed, and if this is all true, you should be convicted. You should be stripped of your command, stripped of your pension, and probably spend some time in a military jail or prison. Brag. If the president intends to continue on fighting the deep state, he needs to understand the sort of people he's fighting. And there's a whole bio about this woman. You want to hear some of her background, some of her impressive background? I'll give this to you in just a second so you can understand how impressive her background is and why she gets to have this position of control. And you tell me if you smell in this any DEI at all. Because it's corrupt. We know that. There's so much money. Do you remember when the man who pretends to be a woman who gets to run part of our National Health Service? And thank God that guy's now gone. Do you remember when he was caught on video talking about the enormous amount of money to be made from wrong sex surgeries and hormones? Remember that? And he was really, really stressing that. Well, it's corruption. But we're headed into a period of time where the empire is striking back. You see this woman striking back against President Trump. Make no mistake, on the financial front, there's going to be a striking back. There's all sorts of bureaucracies spending money as quickly as they can prior to President Trump's budget being put in place, which is coming up. President's going to address the Congress. He's been invited to go do that. So it's important to understand how the battlefield has changed, particularly if this battlefield is the one in which you're going to retire. If you're 5 years from retirement, you're probably going to retire just as President Trump leaves this second term. 10, 15 years, then your retirement might be defined from what happens here. So it's not okay just to breathe a sigh of relief that some economic sanities come back to America. You have to be able to take advantage of the economic sanity. You have to be able to take advantage of the changes that President Trump's economic team is going to make. I struggle to understand how you do that if your portfolio is not actively managed. I cannot see how that could happen, because actively managing portfolios can reduce risk and volatility. It can also allow you to get ahead of trends and make money on them, which you have to employ risk management. Because if you do that and you don't employ risk management, you can take the huge upside and then just drop like a stone before you retire. So do this. Do something free. Take about an hour or so of your time. It's a free live webinar from my friend Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital Management. He's going to do a review of 2025, or preview of 2025, a review of 2024. He'll do a full and complete reveal of how capital management uses active management portfolios to reduce risk and volatility, because those things can go together. So call and reserve your spot right now. It's free, but you have to register to attend. This is on Thursday, January 30th, just around the corner. Go to knowyourriskradio.com. That's KNOW, knowyourriskradio.com, and register. Investment advisory services are offered through Truck Financial LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Truck 25-103. Here's some of this woman's bio, the woman who's refusing to carry out the orders of the President of the United States, and she gets to call herself a lieutenant general. Lieutenant General Tita Crossland is the director of the Defense Health Agency with headquarters in Falls Church, Virginia. Crossland is a graduate of the U.S. Military Academy. Okay, cool. Uniformed Services University of Health Sciences. Okay. The U.S. Commander and General Staff College. In addition to her Doctor of Medicine, she also holds a Master's of Public Health from the Uniformed Services University of Health Sciences and a Master of Science in National Resource Strategy from the Eisenhower School. Crossland entered the Army as a Medical Corps officer in 1993. She's a board-certified American Family Board of Medicine, Fellow of the American Academy of Family Physicians, recipient of the Surgeon General's A Proficiency Designator. And you can go through all sorts of things she has done in the medical world. So maybe she's qualified. To be what? President of the United States? No. But that's who she's become. In this specific instance, she has graduated herself to President of the United States. Is she a DEI hire? I don't know. Looks like she's got a very robust background in medicine. Is she being treated as DEI? I don't know. But she has placed DEI, as it is prescribed by the left, above the chain of command. Her mission is to make sure our troops are combat ready. Want to know who's not combat ready? People who've had their genitalia operated upon. Not in the way that they do in these surgeries. People who have had changes in hormonal structure, wholesale changes, 2,000% more of estrogen or testosterone than belong in their bodies. They are not combat ready. So not only is she defying the orders of the president, she is making sure that her staff, or her clients, as they're called, patients, are far less prepared for combat. There's good news on this. We'll talk about this later this week. Ethan Hames' case has been dismissed. Ethan was the doctor who was a whistleblower about one of the children's hospitals in Texas. His case has been dismissed with prejudice by the judge, praise God. So the DOJ no longer gets to try to put him in prison. I think that lieutenant general needs to be court-martialed for refusing to carry out the orders of the president. There's other people. Sophia Hawkes, has a leadership position at the VA healthcare system. This is an interesting piece of video, don't you think?
Technically, our DEI office, as was set in the order, has closed. Many probably are aware that Dr. Inslee had held that role for us a few months ago. He was transitioned to a different position of organizational psychologist, so he actually will continue to support with our healthcare disparities initiative in the rural health areas, but also with the overall well-being of the overall organization. So there is a program called the Chief Wellbeing Officer, so we certainly don't have that luxury of an FTE for that, but we do have pieces of it. So Dr. Inslee is part of that initiative with us, as well as our whole health leadership team, which includes Jay Allen, Dr. Giorgio, and Giselle Rossi, who's our employee whole health coordinator, and Roberta Calhoun and Dr. Hedry. So you'll be seeing more of that coming forward as that group gets mobilized. And I think those are the highlights. I don't know, Lisa, did I miss anything or anything else that you wanted me to touch on? Oh, you're on mute, Lisa.
Our HUD Dash program does have a couple of Dr. Inslee's like DEI type, presentations, trainings, and so forth. So will he still just kind of reshift his focus on what he'll present? It just won't have like a DEI component, but we can still get trainings from him?
Yes, absolutely. Yes. He will be, it probably won't be titled DEI, but I think, elements and things of those really apply to all people. So I think that's really, so I think it'll still be available. It just may be reframed.
Got it.
But he is certainly available for training and such. So
If you watch the video, the self-satisfied smile on both women's faces is, cute little president, giving some orders. But when the bureaucracy are way too smart for their orders. This has all become necessary because of extremism. I've been having conversations with family members. My mother yesterday reminded me that I am a horrible extremist. And I love my mom. We disagree on things. What I find so very frustrating is that people who have taken something good, which is we should be impartial in hiring. It should not matter the level of melanin in your skin, the height of your cheekbones. None of that should matter. What should matter is your intelligence, your capability, your commitment to the mission, your honesty, your transparency, your work ethic, raw intelligence. Did I say curiosity? Things that contribute to success. Or if you're in a role where your job is to not be curious, simply to take orders and undertake those. There's people who love that. They love box checking jobs and they're greatly skilled at it. That should be the measure. That's good. That's neutrality. We can all agree on that. But when you take DEI and you take diversity, and it is not related to job strengths, it's not related to background, it's not related to what you can add to a workforce in terms of new ideas or new approaches, someone who has different training in an area, and it's simply related to the painting on your face, which is what our melanin level is. It's just the color our faces are painted. That's it. That's all it is. Then that's not even diversity. It is division. This is why we've called it division, exclusion, and insanity. It's extremism to install racism to make sure that black employees only have meetings with only black employees, where the subtextual message is you can't talk freely around your white colleagues because they hate you and they want to harm you. That's what DEI has become. So conversations I've had with family members is, well, we think it's extreme that you're against DEI. I am not against diversity. I love it. I crave it. One of the great things about the human experience is diversity. I experience this in the strangest ways. Like about my habit of going to this pizza place once a week. The young people who work there are like 1/3 my age. And the other day I was talking with this young girl. She's reading a book. I says, hey, what's the book? And she goes, oh, nothing you'd like. I go, wait, hold on. You don't get to say that. You don't get to decide what book I'd like. She goes, well, it's called The Fourth Wing. And okay, so what's it about? So she starts sharing it with me. I said, okay, that sounds like Divergent. She goes, oh my gosh, it's just like Divergent. I go, I love that movie. She said it was made for young people. I don't care. I watched it with my daughter. I loved it. I thought it was a great message. She goes, okay, maybe you would like this. I said, see, you don't get to say that. And then she said, well, it has dragons in it. I go, okay, well, I'm probably not going to like it because I don't want to read a book that has dragons as characters. But just that little experience is like, okay, wow, this is what young people are reading. I can come away with that enriched to some degree. Same thing when I meet a person who speaks a different language. Last night, I'm 57. I've been around the world, not around the world, but I've been traveled all over the place. I've worked in countless industries. I met for the first time a man. I asked him, what do you do for a living? He goes, I make pizza pans. I go, oh my gosh, you're kidding me. I was thrilled. And I was there. He's one of my students' dads. And we were at this beloved pizza place where I just told the story about the book. I go, oh my gosh, like, do you make their pizza pans? And I'm excited. And I saw my student's face light up like, wow, Todd's actually excited about my dad's job. Yeah. And I told him, I've never met a guy who makes pizza pans. What's that like? And I learned that during the lockdowns that their business exploded, that they had all sorts of overtime. I'm jazzed walking out of there. I'm telling my friends, I met a guy who makes pizza pans. That's diversity. That's joy. That's the human experience. God loved the multicolors and multicultures, and the languages were invented because we were trying to thwart God's will, but it's had a good outcome because God can use evil for good. So when they're promoting this DEI, what they're stuck to, in my opinion, it's like it's an emotional addiction. Like a food addiction can become emotional. You don't know how to manage your emotions without getting yourself packed to the gills with 15 double cheeseburgers. Ask me, I did that. Their emotional addiction is so that they can leave work, going home, and they're not just VA administrators. They don't just push paper. They don't just check boxes, and some people love that in their living. They're not just bureaucrats. They are world changers. They're doing things for the BIPOCs that the BIPOCs can't do for themselves. They get to drive home to Virginia, to Fairfax, wherever they live with their federal pensions in place. They get to walk in the door knowing that today, with their white suburb and their house that the people that taxes pay their salary can't afford, and their guaranteed retirement, they have helped the BIPOCs. So at night they can go to bed dreaming about the fact that today I helped the BIPOCs by pandering to the BIPOCs, by informing them that you are too stupid to get a job on your own. But we've got a program for you. That's what this has become. The extremes of installing racism have somehow made the removal of racism seem extreme. And DEI extends itself into how people treat people who currently have jobs. Lloyd Austin, we're going to talk about him again, and General White Rage. Now, White Rage is a white guy, so we can't say DEI, except we can. Because he used DEI excuses to offer to commit treason. He should be returned. He should be recalled to service. He should face court-martial for his role in January 6th, for his role in Afghanistan, and for his role in undermining the President of the United States and offering to commit treason. Milley should be brought back and court-martialed, and we'll talk about Lloyd Austin again in just a reminder here in a second. I mentioned the pizza place this weekend. No, I didn't eat pizza 2 days in a row. I want you to know, or twice in the same week. I don't do that to myself. I had meatballs last night, and I had peppers, and I had a Caesar salad. But I did go on my just about 10K run with my vest. And I love that. It's around one of our local lakes. Surprisingly, I know this is going to freak you out. You may not believe this. I have a protocol for that. I have all these health protocols. Before the run, I make sure I've got about 32 ounces of water and lemon juice and salt in my body and a little bit of honey. I have a little bit of whey protein. I choose to run that in a pretty much a fasting state because I feel better that way, and I'm trying to make sure that I can sustain that. And then when I came home, took a shower, got ready to go to take the students out, it's this. It's from Bioptimizers. It is number 1, P3OM, prebiotic. Number 2, Masszymes. This is a probiotic, and it helps me get as much nutrition out of the protein I'm about to go eat at the pizza place as possible, and then HCl breakthrough. And this is about helping the hydrochloric acid in your body consume and break down a meal like that. So my goal is to go in, eat, and at this point it was salad, meatballs, and things like that, to make sure I get the most nutrition out of that, and it digests as quickly as possible so it doesn't sit around. Leaving the pizza place, I pop into the truck and I pop in some magnesium breakthrough. Magnesium breakthrough helps me relax. It controls stress. It controls the stress hormone cortisol, and it helps me relax into sleep. My sleep rating last night was good, solid, 9 hours and 43 minutes of sleep with 15 minutes awake. Deep sleep, REM sleep, all good. I credit the protocol. Protocols are important. You probably have them in areas in your life. And if you don't on health, let me take you to bioptimizers.com/Todd. Easiest place in the world to stack products you need that are all super high quality and constantly reviewed for improvement. Go to bioptimizers.com/Todd. Use promo code Todd to get 10% off all their products. And when you subscribe, you're going to get exclusive offers, exclusive free gifts, and exclusive information. So bioptimizers.com/Todd. Use promo code Todd. It wasn't necessarily DEI that put Lloyd Austin in the place he was, but there was a waiver. A very, very special waiver because Lloyd Austin is the only man who could carry out that duty. Certainly not Pete Hegseth. This weekend, in addition to conversations about my extremism, I was talking with someone who's a liberal about Pete Hegseth. And here's what they said. You know the guy who drinks a lot? I said, how much does he drink? Well, a lot. Well, how much? I don't know. I've just, seen all sorts of news reports about him drinking. How much? Well, I don't know why you're asking me that. He's an alcoholic. He is? Oh, I didn't know that. He's an alcoholic. How did you come upon that? Well, he just drinks a lot. And I kind of smiled and go, you have no idea how much he drinks, do you? Well, look, I'm not going to argue. We can agree to disagree. I just know he drinks a lot. I go, no, you don't. Because you can't even define a lot. Hegseth has been blocked, and while he's now, of course, gotten the nomination, he's in, and he's there as the defense secretary, praise God, that he was blocked based upon rumors that he drank a lot. An elite soldier drank a lot? Wow. A highly testosterone-driven elite soldier drank a lot? I've been very, very open about my discomfort of the way he treated his first two wives. Super uncomfortable. I'm super uncomfortable when I read a story about a guy settling sex abuse charges with a woman. It makes me super uncomfortable. I really value treating women well. I mean, really value it. Really. Always have. So it makes me uncomfortable. But if I'm comparing the ruin, and I'm comparing Pete Hegseth's terrible, perhaps, treatment of women, and I know that some of the women have come back and said it never happened. I know that. I read the news. But if comparing that personality defect, or perhaps even that abusive nature, to what's been done to our military under Lloyd Austin, I hate to say this, but even if I believed all the things about Hegseth, on a side-by-side, I'll choose the guy who drinks too much and has, in his past, treated women poorly and appears to have turned his life around. And he would tell you through the auspices and kindness and righteousness of Jesus Christ, and he appears to have made that solid turn. I'd choose him over Lloyd Austin any single day of the week. This is a reminder about Lloyd Austin.
But do you have regrets about the withdrawal from Afghanistan?
I support the president's decision.
Do you have regrets about the withdrawal or how the withdrawal occurred from Afghanistan that cost the lives of 13 of our service members?
I don't have any regrets.
You don't have any regrets. Secretary Austin, it's very telling. Secretary Austin, has there ever been any accountability for anyone within the Department of Defense for the deadly, botched, and embarrassing withdrawal from Afghanistan? Any accountability?
Hey, listen, our troops evacuated 124,000 people off of that airfield.
Has anyone been held accountable? If a Navy captain grounded a ship, what happens immediately?
Typically, that captain is removed.
That captain is removed. Has anyone been held accountable for what happened in Afghanistan?
To my knowledge, no.
You don't regret it? No one's ever been held accountable? Mr. Chairman, this is why this Republican majority must provide the accountability that this administration wants to sweep under the rug with what happened in Afghanistan.
Lloyd Austin could have appointed. He could have brought about accountability. Lloyd Austin could have, with a piece of paper, fired everybody who made that decision down chain. Now, it could be unfair because it could be figurehead Biden, or more likely the people who ran figurehead Biden who made that decision. But you know what else Lloyd Austin could have done? No, not doing it. In other words, Lloyd Austin could have done, in a case of imminent danger to our troops, Lloyd Austin could have done what Defense Health Agency Lieutenant General Talita Coughlin is doing. Talita Coughlin saying, hey, we're going to do these surgeries anyway. But Lloyd Austin could have done it honorably and honestly. He could have said to the people who run Joe Biden, no, I'm not going to eliminate the military airport. No, I'm not going to take it down to one point of egress. No, I'm not going to announce in advance the day we're leaving so the Taliban can plan. No, I'm not leaving the equipment behind. And the people who run Joe Biden could have, through Biden, said, hey, if you won't do it, someone else will, you're out. And Lloyd Austin could have said, as a moral man, I'm out. I'm not going to participate in getting people killed this way, which is the obvious outcome when you tell the enemy, here's the airport, not that one, this one. Here's the day, here's the time, and refuse to allow our military to kill the S-bombers who are headed there to blow up their vests. Is it DEI? DEI can hide all sorts of corruption because it's corrupt. It's become corrupted. He should be brought back in and face a court-martial. So should General White Rage Milley, who offered to commit treason with the Chinese Communist Party and was a guy who glorified DEI with that famous statement, I'm white and I want to understand white privilege because I think it's important. How do you know it's important if you don't understand it? Those two things should go together. I understand it, therefore I think it's important. What he meant was, I think it's popular. You know, this lady at this healthcare service, Tisha Crossland, there are people who work for the VI, and they get a pretty bad rap. I got to be honest. I talked to a friend of mine whose husband was active duty for many, many years, and he's got a whole bunch of traumatic brain injuries, and it's tough. It's been super, super tough on him and his family. It's been kind of catastrophic, to be honest with you. And recently, he started to get some treatments through the VA that involved, believe it or not, microdosing mushrooms, the hallucinogenic kind. And I'm talking about microdosing, very, very small doses. And what sort of happened for a while, and I don't know, I haven't kept track, I haven't talked to them in a long time. But what was happening is he was starting to smile and starting to reach out to friends and starting to go engage in social activities, which he hadn't done in a very long time. So sometimes the VA gets a bad rap. I talked to another guy who is a combat vet, and he's got a horrible, horrible back injury. And he's trying to do CrossFit, et cetera, but it's really hard on him. He's trying to do what he can. And I said something about the VA and joked. He goes, hey, let me stop. He goes, there's actually some really good people at the VA. And that's all true, but there's things they can't do. Just like the rest of our healthcare system, the VA is captured by pharma. There's things they cannot do. So when I hear about this guy and his back problem, and I know there's going to be massive inflammation, I know that because he tells me. I know that he's got a bunch of torn muscles and tendons. I know he's trying to put this back together, but it's hard to live your life this way. I so wish the VA would let guys like that go down to Renew Healthcare in Mexico. Just because of the anti-inflammatory treatments. These stem cells ethically gathered from placentas and umbilical cords. Yes, they rebuild muscle and tendon and cartilage. They're phenomenal that way. That's why so many professional athletes are there. Professional golfers are always there. Every time I've been there, there's been a professional golfer who's on the tour there. Professional baseball players and football players. The baseball players and football players aren't allowed to talk about it because their leagues don't want them talking about things not outside the league healthcare. But it's frustrating to me that our troops can't go down there, because the anti-inflammatory properties would immediately address Chris's back problem, immediately in my judgment. And having addressed that then, they can go about rebuilding the muscles and the tendons, maybe even the cartilage that's been destroyed. In his case, because of an injury he suffered not that long ago on active duty. But they won't, because they're captured by pharma. You can go there. Go to renew.healthcare and tell them you're part of the Todd Herman Show family and have them look at your medical records. If it's pain, if it's things like carpal tunnel, if it's a back injury, even things like traumatic brain injury, I've seen unbelievable success on a consistent basis. And I've been a patient as well and love it. Renew.healthcare. It's RENUE.healthcare. DEI manifests in many, many forms. So much of it is racial and by design because it's designed to divide. But it also manifests into how our Justice Department had been run under the people who run Joe Biden. We've seen the disparity side by side. The pro-life people who were put in jail for praying versus the Black Lives Matter Incorporated people who were let out of jail for burning cities. Of course, the J6ers. And there's some J6ers who were violent to cops, and maybe 4 years is enough in jail for some of that for people. For me, if you go around beating the cop in the heads, you kind of signed up for a long jail sentence. And I get the argument. I totally understand it. That the police were tossing tear gas and flashbangs into the crowd before the crowd did anything violent. I watched that. That happened. That's not an assumption. It's watchable. Well, the crowd was just standing there. They started to toss those bombs in there. I think their job was to rile the crowd up. That's what I think their orders were. And I think it worked. And I think when you've had a flashbang thrown at you or you've seen women having tear gas canisters tossed at them, I think that your flesh can get the better of you. And probably there were some people who went there to try to beat up cops. Probably. And they should be punished. But I'm in support of the pardons. And I'll tell you why. Is because this was encouraged to happen. Mitch McConnell, Nancy Pelosi, General Whiterage, they all encouraged it to happen by refusing to have the 10,000 National Guard troops brought in. It could have been prevented, but they wanted it to happen, in my judgment. And it's happened to real people. Part of DEI is this. Well, yeah, but they're Trump supporters. So justice matters and police are abusive, but they're Trump supporters. Therefore, the thinking goes, they deserve what they get. This is the father of a former J6 prisoner.
Families have lost everything. Their husbands, the fathers, the breadwinners have been taken from them and put in prison unlawfully for many years for the simplest of infractions.
You said this wasn't the first prison that your son was at. Can you talk to us about what they charged him with and why he was at another prison before coming here?
Sure. What they do is it's called diesel therapy, so you can't settle. So what they'll do is when they first picked my son up on January 16, 2021, they scooped him up and then they started taking him from prison to prison. Spent 202 days down in the bowels of the D.C. prison. The conditions there are so egregious. He was actually sifting water through a sock because there's so much rust in the bottom of that prison that you can't drink the water. And so, they would lay him on a cot. They had lights. This was like Vietnam, where they had lights on all the time. You had two blankets. They call them blankets, and you just laid him on a basically a block, and you didn't even have a mattress. So, and then what they do as soon as you start to get communications with your attorneys and your family, they scoop you up and they take you to another prison. And then so you'll be there for 2 weeks. You're usually a week to 2 weeks. You're in solitary, where they're transitioning you into the new prison, and then you're there for, maybe 3 to 5 months. They ship you out again. And there was a time that on 2 Christmases ago, we didn't know where he was for I want to say almost 3 weeks. How is that possible? How come you can't, call his family? Nobody knows where he's at. When you can't talk to your attorneys, you can't hardly even talk to your family, and you can't possibly, make a defense. And then when you do get your attorneys, you talk to your attorneys, and then they scoop you up and they move you to the prison. All your notes and stuff, they take. So they know exactly what your defense is. It's like playing cards with your opponent looking over your back, you're looking at your hand. It's impossible to win. What has happened under the Biden regime was so egregious, so anti-American, unconstitutional. They walked all over our Bill of Rights. Thank God President Trump came in here, because not just for our patriots and our families, but for all of America, because if they didn't like you, they would do anything to shut you up. They tried to shut down my businesses. They had the local the state agencies come after my companies. I got a bunch of companies like restaurants, and so they'll stop at nothing to shut you down, and I've lived through it, and so here we are today.
So you're standing out here. President Trump signed the pardon over 24 hours ago, or coming up on 24 hours ago. Your son is still not out. What reasons have they given you for that, and what do you think is actually going on?
What this is nothing more than this nasty, rotten mayor of this city that controls these facilities. They're not federal facilities, they're city-run facilities. So what she's doing, because she's all bent out of shape, because they're out, she is doing everything she possibly can to hold up the process and also harm him. My son was assaulted by a lieutenant and 5 other guards last night. He was assaulted, punched. He was sitting in the middle of the quad waiting to get processed and go out. Came in, they handcuffed him, they wrenched his wrists, put him behind him, they punched him, from what I understand. They threw him physically into his cell, and that's where he was for the rest of the night.
Patrice Collier's, one of the founders of Black Lives Matter Incorporated's home recently burned down. Oh, it's insured. A home that she purchased with Black Lives Matter Incorporated money after encouraging the burning of American cities and the killing of cops, which she got. 300% increase in ambush killings of cops. She's never gone to trial. She's never been indicted. Andy Ngo's book, Antifa Unmasked, has an org chart of Antifa leadership. Antifa, which has, in fact, helped murder cops and undertaken 2 political assassinations on the streets of America. One, they actually got indicted on in Denver. In Portland's, they have not faced indictment. The guy who did the shooting got himself killed by cops. On Thursday, I'm going to tell you about the guy named Daniel Bell. He was pardoned. And his paperwork was processed by the Bureau of Prisons. And he was walking out. That's never happened before. That has never happened before. And he was walking out. If you're listening, by the way, that was my coffee cup. He was walking out. And then they stopped him. And I'll tell you what happened on Thursday's show. Just one note, biblically. I was in prison and you did not visit me. Remember when Jesus said that? As you treat the least of these, so you treat me. And guess what? People in prison are also the least of these, because in God's eyes, we're all the least of these. This is the Todd Herman Show. Please go be well, be strong, be kind, and make it a focus today to remember that the path to destruction is wide, but we can all walk in the light of Christ.